What is up, everyone? We're back. All-Star break is over Friday. Man, we are in mid-July already, Stats. Season is just chugging along. I hope everyone had a good All-Star break. I know a bunch of us in the RPS Discord did on Tuesday, Stats. I'm sure you saw our way that we play the All-Star break worked out with, low scoring early, lots of runs late. Our guy, Chris McDonald in chat, longtime RPS member, good dude, always in the Discord, Stats, shipped literally everything on Tuesday. I think he had another good day today in the Golf Showdown streets. But let's start with you. How was your break? What's going on, man?
Yeah, break was good. It's nice to be able to at least leave the house at dinner time or not have to run back home at 4 o'clock to get ready for the MLB slate. So it's nice to have a few of those days off, but I'm ready, man. I am back at it. And like you said, yeah, I mean, this is two 60,000 plus winners we've had in the last week. And we had Freddie last week in MLB, and we haven't had MLB obviously for a few days. So yeah, things are heating up in the RPS Discord. So for those of you who are not subscribers, I would highly recommend getting over and subscribing to RPS, and maybe you'll be the next 50K plus winner.
Yeah, I actually did rush back. I was doing the playbook over at a local brewery here. As you guys see, I'm out of town again in a nice Airbnb. Those of you that follow me, I'm out of town. But so C McDonald 1016, who won the 60K, is given back to the community. He's given away 8 121 tickets today, Stats, and we are the people who are supposed to decide who to give them to. He wants to give them to RPS members. So if you're in the chat here, we'll do a little giveaway. You do have to have Venmo, Chris said. So you have to have Venmo and Stats. If we recognize the person, or if we don't recognize the person, then they're just not they're not eligible to win. Because you have to be a member. If you want to be a member, Big T tweeted earlier today with a promo code. Let me pull that up so I get it correct. Big T44 gets you 44% off your first payment, which is one of the better deals that we've ever done. For the giveaway, what we're going to do is, since I'm out of town and I seem to do a lot of shows not from my apartment, a lot of people know where I am, but just something funny. Where am I doing the show from today? Stats and I will pick a couple winners, and Chris C. McDonald will stake you. You do have to be a member, though. So let's have some fun with that in the chat. Stats and I will be monitoring the comments throughout the show. But Stats, we got an 11 gamer here to bring us back. A lot of the top arms threw in the game on Tuesday, so they're not going to be available until tomorrow or Sunday. So not as strong of a pitching slate as we usually have on a Friday. But we do have, I think, pretty depressed ownership on a couple spots across the board that we'll get to as we go through the games. But I think we just dive in here. We'll start in Toronto. Giants coming across the country, going to the red-hot first-place Toronto Blue Jays. Stats, I think, probably the most surprising team in all baseball, leading the AL East. We got Chris Bassett and Justin Verlander, two old heads, going at it. 8,100 for Bassett, 6,500 for Verlander. Let's start with Bassett here. At home, favorite against the Giants. Any interest in him? He's been really good at home all season.
Yeah. Let's see. I've got Bassett at. I got to get back in the swing myself. Here we go. I got him as the 9th best option on this slate, with Verlander down at the 14th option. So not a ton of love here for Bassett. As far as the bats go, let me bring that up as well. We've got it's a mix. They're not two. I think you kind of alluded to it, and we were talking before the show about just how interesting a slate this is, with one huge team total, and then we got a bunch of really, it's like a bunch of teams that are right around 4 to 5, no one else over 5. So I think it's going to be an interesting slate, and one where we're going to have to obviously, we always have to get it right, but we're going to be picking from maybe not too many chalky teams. So this one here, I kind of like San Francisco a little bit better. We are getting a little bit of leverage over Bassett. So I like the San Francisco side. I like Chapman, Devers, Yastrzemski on the Toronto side. Guerrero and Springer are my two favorite options. But both of these teams are in play. I like them for secondary. A lot of these are going to be secondary stacks for me because I really like that Minnesota at Colorado game, of course, as most people will. But I like the secondary stacks, and I think we get a little bit of an edge if we take some of these San Francisco bats.
Yeah, I actually kind of like. I haven't played Bassett that much this year. When I have played him, it's at home as a favorite. He's got some of the starkest home road splits in the league. I'm not sure how much you buy into that kind of long term. I think we should actually talk about that real quick, just because it's kind of an interesting thing. Do you buy into that for guys who aren't, pitchers that pitch for the Mariners or anything like that? Like Bassett's got extreme home road splits so far. What do you think about that? Just kind of,
I think
as a general point.
In general, I don't put much weight into it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see this in football. You'll see it with a team just happens to play really well on the road. Like the team's undefeated on the road.
Right.
They'll be like, "Oh, what are they doing differently?" It's basic statistics. Like that's just going to happen. There's going to be some of those teams, some of those players that are just going to do really well on the road or at home or whatever for no particular reason. It's different when it's Colorado. We see a difference between home and away, and like you said, Seattle. So I don't put too much weight into it. I think what we do is we see the trend, and then we try to figure out why it is that that's happening. So if there's no real good reason, and you didn't have that hypothesis before it actually happened, in all likelihood, it's just a statistical anomaly, and I kind of let it go.
Yeah, I don't fully buy into it. I do for I don't know. I think it's kind of a case-by-case basis. I know that's probably bad. But a guy like Bassett, who's like a savvy vet, I think he's probably pretty comfortable pitching in that park. So I think Bassett's playable here at that price tag. I'm going to have him in the pool. I'm not really fully respecting this Giants offense. I don't have any issue going against him. Obviously, he's not my top arm or anything like that. He's in the back half of my pool. I think we should talk about the Blue Jays bats, though. I know you talked on the Giants. The Jays are one of those team stats that, we got 10 teams between, I believe, 4.5 and 4.8 or 4.9 team total. Jays were red hot coming to the break. We got Verlander, who has looked shaky at times. I kind of just want to keep riding this Toronto offense. Ever since Barger has gotten hot, they moved Lukes up to the one hole. That 1 through 6 for this Toronto team has been really, really strong.
Yeah, no, it has been. And like you said, this has been one of the more, probably maybe the surprise team so far. But I don't have I really have them as the guys I said there, Guerrero and Springer, and then you could throw Barger in there as well. After that, they're just not rated all that high here for me. So I'm not going to get too heavy on Toronto. Most of these bats are going to be pretty low. Wagner, Kirk, Loperfido, Clement, Lukes. Nathan Lukes is always one of the worst plays on the Boom Report. So all those guys are really rated kind of low. So yeah, I'm not going to have too much of that. Like I said, it'll be secondary stacks with those tops guys, Springer, Guerrero, and Barger.
Wow, we're usually in lockstep. We got the first game and already a disagreement.
I know.
I'm on the Jays. I like a little bit of Bassett here. Let's go to game 2. They're in Cleveland, A's and the Guardians. Slade Ciccone up against JP Sears. Sears, a guy that we like to target when he's in Sacramento, but this game's in Cleveland. Stats, when I was writing the playbook, I ended up liking these pitchers more than I thought, but I do want to get your thoughts on both these guys here.
Yeah, I think this game's interesting. Ciccone's going to have some I think we'll get some attention here. I don't know what the ownership. I'm not looking at that right now.
There's a good K prop in this spot.
What's the K prop?
Over 5.5, juice to the over at 7,800 here. The A's have been striking out a lot, even though they do have a lot of power.
Well, the thing with the A's, right? So that's why we probably, we're going to like the ownership. I didn't give you where he was on my model. I think I got him 4th overall here. Ciccone, that is, or Ciccone, or however you want to pronounce it. I'm Italian. I'm supposed to get these things right, but
it doesn't matter until he does something good for us.
Yeah, the CH sound is more of the ch and s with right. So Ciccone, but yeah, I've got him as the 4th best pitcher. But I think what's really interesting here on this with this game is I think the the A's here offer probably the best leverage versus the starting pitcher spot on this entire slate. So I think that's the spot. There's not that many good ones. From what I'm looking at, as far as getting some leverage. Like I said, we could get a little bit of it maybe in that last game with the San Francisco bats, but I think this is a much better spot with the A's bats. So I like the A's bats here, even though I've got Ciccone at the fourth spot, and I don't have much. I won't have much of JP Sears at all here. I've got him down as the 17th pitcher. I do like Cleveland bats also, but for me, it's like the A's with Kurtz and Butler and Rooker up at the top. Really like that. Again, we're looking for secondary stacks to pair with Minnesota. So those are the bats I like. And then Ramirez and Santana are two of the higher bats that we've got on the Cleveland side, with Fry and Martinez just under those guys. Langoliers, of course, for the Athletics as well, is pretty good here. So I think this is a good leverage versus starting pitcher game for me for the Athletic side.
Yeah, so when I was going through this, the Cleveland bats, just look at how cheap these are. If there were pitchers over 10K, I think Cleveland would come in higher owned to your stats. I'm not sure that we need all these cheap bats on the slate. We'll talk about the top arms being kind of cheaper than they usually are. When I first started, I thought that I was going to be, super interested in these cheap Cleveland guys. But as I started to build stuff, I'm not sure that we need a bunch of 2K bats on the slate. If you end up needing it, it is a good spot against Sears here, though. We've got, 5 through 9, all below 2,800 on DK for Cleveland. I like Ciccone a bit, but I don't mind the A's call. I'm not sure if you said if you like full stacks of the A's. I kind of like hunting the power here with the top of the order.
That's what I agree with. It's about the power bats, and it's really at the top of the lineup here with the A's. So I think this is where we'll get some, like I said, probably the best leverage. And I like it where this is not going to be a very popular team at all, ownership wise. So I think probably, ownership's going to be, fairly spread out, I think, for the most part anyway. But I think this gives you, I like the upside with I keep wanting to say Oakland and I can't, but I like the upside there with the A's, power bats. I agree at the top of the lineup, those bats with, like I said, Kurtz and Rooker and those guys up near the top of the order. I think they offer good upside, very low ownership to pair with the very chalky Minnesota side.
Yes, I agree there. Like some Ciccone, like some mini stacks here. All right, let's go to the Mets game. The Reds in town. Nick Madolo and Sean Manaea making a second start here. Stats, when I was doing the playbook, wasn't really sure what to say about Manaea. He's only made one start all year, threw like 65 pitches in his first start, looked good. The props are okay here. Is this going to be a wait and see spot for you on him, or are you going to attack that 7K low price tag against a team that's been pretty shitty on the road in the Reds?
Yeah, that was I think that was Sunday where it was Sunday. He just came in. Yep. He came in relief, but he threw a ton of pitches in that game, and they wound up blowing it. But no, he looked really good. I don't think there's any reason necessarily to wait with Manaea. So I've got him as the 5th best pitcher on the slate. Decent, kind of K per inning. In that game, he was his K. I forget how many Ks he had in that game in the 65 pitches. He had a bunch though. I think he started out striking out the first 5.
The only reason I had some trepidation was under 15.5 outs is like minus 180, 190 here. Mm-hmm. But at 7K, I think we can get enough at that price tag as a home fave here.
Yeah, I agree. None of these guys are projected. None of the pitchers here today are projected for like a super amount of outs. It's just an odd slate where we don't have that many dominant pitchers. They're cheap, and yet we don't have many high team totals. So it's definitely unusual for this slate. But I think he's fine here. Yeah, the upside is capped. He's not going to throw 100 pitches, but I think he's kind of middle of the pack for the entire slate as far as what we're projecting for innings pitched. And I think we've got some good upside as far as decent with the strikeouts, and then the earned runs is projected to be one of the fewest earned runs given up on the entire slate. So I have no problem here.
Yeah,
with rostering Manaea.
Any interest in Lodolo and the 8Ks? Pretty tough matchup, but
I think I think he's a little too expensive. I don't think his numbers look as good here. The projections look as good as Manaea does, and we're getting a big savings here with Mania. So I don't particularly love him. I got him as the 11th best option on this slate. So I don't.
He just missed my
really
pool
care.
personally. Yeah.
What was that?
He just missed my pool personally.
Yeah, that's right about where he is for me. So I mean, it maybe a lineup or two out of the 150, but for the most part, I would just kind of X him out, I think. And then with that said, the Met bats are the only interest I have. And again,
Was just
not.
gonna ask you.
Yeah, I don't love the entire lineup here. I don't like the Cincinnati lineup at all. On the Mets side, Lindor and Alonso. You got and then maybe Vientos, Soto. Outside of that, I'm not loving Met bats. You could probably sneak Taylor in there as well, but outside of that, I'm going to kind of pass on the rest of the Met bats. So again, I really like the secondary stacks here with the Mets. I'm going to cross off X out the Cincinnati stacks altogether.
Can the Mets just do us a favor, Stats, and drop Vientos in the order so we don't have to play him in the 2-hole?
Yeah,
he rates out great every
I know.
single and then saying exactly what I'm thinking, what we're all thinking. Vientos hasn't done much all season.
No, he hasn't. And then you're getting, you get the good price.
He's so cheap
at the, in the good spot in the lineup, and it's like, it's pretty hard to pass up on him. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, same. All right, stop here for a sec. I've been watching the watching the comments. They've been great. I'm working on a list here, Stats. We can go over that soon. When I do, I'll put the list in the chat here, and just DM me on Discord with your name and your Venmo so I can get it over to Chris for those tickets. All right, let's keep it going. Let's go to Miami. Seth Lugo, who's been just fantastic the entire season, down to a 2.67 ERA stats. One of the more underrated, just awesome seasons this year for Lugo, going up against the guy who's pretty much the complete opposite. Sandy Alcantara, been a disaster the whole year. I'm not going to play Sandy until further notice, especially in that low strikeout matchup here. Lugo at 9,300 is kind of pushing it for me. As far as the upside, I kind of want to know where you landed on Lugo here. Miami has quietly been really, really tough on right-handers, not really striking out much in the split at all.
Yeah, I don't have much of Lugo. He's going to be my seventh best option. I just think the 9,300, that's a little pricey for what we're expecting strikeout-wise here from Lugo in this matchup. I think that's what's kind of limiting where I've got him. If you look at the betting markets, he is, I believe, like 4.5 strikeouts and minus 150-ish to the over with 17.5 outs. That is juice to the over. And Alcantara, as you said, not much in the way of strikeouts against a team that really doesn't strike out all that much. We got 3.5 in the prop market, minus 170 to the over with he's got 17.5 outs as well. Pretty much same juice to his over on the outs. But so I won't have much of either. Lugo, I'll have obviously a little bit more here than Alcantara, but not much. He's my 7th best pitcher on the slate. I've got Alcantara as my 10th best option on the entire slate. Not sure what did you do with the bats in this one?
I was about to ask. I kind of like the Royals bats here. It just seems like it goes south so quickly for Sandy this year. Really like the top 6. Caglianone is down to 2,700. He showed some life before the break. I don't play the Royals that often, but I think they're in the pool here. Really cheap tags in what's a good spot against a pitcher who just hasn't had it all season. I know personally I've tried to make Sandy work probably too often. I'm not sure if you have as well. But I'm kind of in the camp where he has to show it to me at this point, right? He's just out there getting shelled every time out.
Yeah, this isn't the spot that you're going to take a shot because Kansas City just doesn't strike out enough. So this wouldn't be a spot I'd want to use them. Kansas City bats definitely preferable over Miami, but not going to get too crazy. The bats, I typically don't play a lot of Kansas City either. You always got Bobby Witt's always going to be in play because of the dual threat, and there's some power bats in here that you'd have some interest in with Salvi Perez and Vinny P and those guys. I think I would pretty much limit it there. I mean, you might want to take you could look at Rave because of the stolen bases and Garcia as well for stolen bases. Maybe add those guys into the mix. But I would probably focus more on the Kansas City power bats, and then on the Miami side, I'm not really interested in touching the Miami bats at all in this game.
Yeah, with the Miami side and us not really being high on Lugo, it's not really that we love Miami. It's that the price tag on Lugo kind of caps his upside here. For me, I don't really think you need to mess up with anything besides the top 6 of Kansas City and maybe some Rave. We'll see if I end up on the Royals stacks. It's not a spot that I've gotten too much this year. Hasn't really burned us too often not 5-manning the Royals this season. Maybe 1 or 2 times. All right, let's do the next game, and then after that, stats. I've got a list of guys. If you just want me to pick the 8, big series in Atlanta, fun series. It was going to be even more fun stats if Max Fried was going to make the start for the Yankees back in Atlanta. He's been pushed back with the blister on his finger, but we do have a 9K Spencer Strider here. Really interested in your take on him in this spot. Big time K prop as usual, but a tough matchup. And then the Yankees, it looks like they're just going to go with the bullpen game out of the break.
Yeah, obviously the tough matchup for Strider, but at the 9K, I mean, this is your best option on the slate. I think with the most upside. Doesn't come without risk, and we've seen we've definitely maybe not seen the best Strider that we've seen in the past going up against that Yankee lineup. Yeah. Who knows? The Yankees weren't all that great here coming into the break. We'll see if the break changes things up for them. Maybe the rest wakes their bats up. But when you look at this slate, I think from just from an upside standpoint, I'm not sure there's a better option than Strider. So I've got him as my number one choice. I'm not sure if Sabres got him as their number one pitcher on the slate. I would think he probably is the highest owned here. And typically I would say, with the Yankee bats, I kind of like sometimes against them when you have a high owned pitcher, using them as leverage, and they're going to show up as the highest leverage for starting pitching. I think they'll probably show up as the highest on the board because I think Strider is going to be projected to be so high owned. But I don't know if I necessarily love it. Outside of, I think this is one of those situations where you can do it. I think Freddie did this actually with his lineup too. I forget, taking an expensive one-off play. So I don't mind necessarily taking the expensive Judge if you could do it. It'd definitely be an unusual lineup if you had like a one-off with Judge. If you were playing him with Minnesota, it would probably be different. So I don't mind that, but don't necessarily like Yankee stacks here. Strider's going to be my number one pitcher on this entire slate.
Yeah, if I was going against Strider, it would be with the one-offs. I don't think he's going to have a clean outing here. That's not the arm that he is anymore. Like we're playing him because he has an 8K prop, not because we think he's going to throw 8 shutout innings, right? So I think you can get away with like 1 or 2 Yankees bats here. I'm with you on Strider. I think there's like him and we'll talk about Glassnote later. Likely the cheapest. I think we're going to see these guys the rest of the season, and I kind of want to buy into that. So I'm with you on Strider. I think despite the tough matchup, he's a home favorite here. And the K prop is just too good to ignore on this slate. I think he can give up some damage and still be the optimal pitcher here, stats. I don't really like any bats on that Braves side. The Yankees bullpen game, strong bullpen, everyone's rested. It's a weird thing to say, stats. Friday night,
yeah,
I'm out on Braves. No Braves for this Friday game for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you could, you could sneak a couple in here that are worth playing. I think Olsen and Cunha and Murphy, but I like the Yankee side a little bit better just because of that leverage, the leverage on them. And so I don't mind mixing in, like I said, if you play, but I like the leverage against the pitcher. I like a whole lot more with that athletics game. But if you want to take a shot here, I think some of the Yankee power bats are in play. And Strider is going to give up some walks here as well. So there's always the potential there for the big, 2-3 run home run.
Yeah, it's weird because I love Strider. I'm going to have a ton of him, but I kind of like the Yankees bats more than the Braves bats, just because I know if Strider gives anything up, it's going to be a solo bomb or a walk and a bomb, something like that. All right, I've picked 8 people from the chat stats. We've got a bunch of members here. I think 1 or 2 non-members, but guys who just had really, really funny comments. I'm going to post it in the chat here. Just add me as a friend and DM me on Discord as soon as you can with your Venmo name. If you can't find me on Discord, then you're probably not a member anyways, so we can go to someone else. I just put that in the chat. So congrats to all the winners. And again, oh shit, I was hoping that would be a better list. You guys can figure it out. And thanks again to Chris McDonald, who just continues to crush. Awesome guy in our Discord, a valued member of the RPS community for sure. All right, we got 6 games left. Let's keep it rolling here. AL East battle. My Orioles are in Tampa. Chuck Morton against Taj Bradley, 2 very, very volatile pitchers. I didn't get to either guy here at these price tags. I would lean. Actually, I'm not even sure where I would lean. I'm not on either pitcher here. I kind of like the bats here, especially the Baltimore side. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got Bradley as the 6th option pitching, so I will have a bit of Taj Bradley, and then as far as Morton goes, just no interest in Charlie Morton. On the bat side, it's interesting because while I do have a bit of Taj Bradley, the Baltimore bats really rate out very high. So this is probably my 2nd favorite of the leverage. So I like the Athletics, and then I like Baltimore as well here as a really strong. This actually may be a little bit stronger leverage play against the starting pitcher, depending on what kind of ownership we're looking at for Bradley. So what do we have on? They're looking at the 13-15% somewhere in that ballpark, which I think is. Yep. I think this works out well. So I like these power bats for it's both power and speed when you get Baltimore, right? So I like Gunnar and Mullins, Laureano and Holiday, all guys with upside and power and speed. Westberg you could throw in there as well, a little less speed, but certainly upside on the power. So I like those bats quite a bit. I think they're worth playing in 5-man stacks more so than maybe any of the other teams that we've looked at here thus far. And then I think Tampa's in play also. I mean, in this ballpark, I'd much rather be on bats typically here than
also on a slate like this where we're kind of looking for tiebreakers too. You know, playing bats in this park, I think is a good tiebreaker overall.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. But when we look, the Tampa bats I like also, but man, the Baltimore bats are getting such good prices. I think on these guys, a lot of sub 4K bats in that lineup there today. But don't mind the Tampa, Simpson, Caminero, Lau. So those guys all look pretty good. Which one's Lau? Is it Low? Brandon is Lau or Josh is Lau?
Brandon is Lau. Josh is Low.
That's what I thought. Right. So Lau is the guy we like here more. So we want Brandon Lau at second base, 4,600. A little bit more than Low, but Low's in play as well at the 5K. But I really like these Baltimore bats. Like I said, the combo of power and speed from Henderson, Mullins, Laureano, Westberg, Holiday. I like all those bats. I think 5-man stacks certainly in play for Baltimore today.
Agreed. I don't play the O's often. I think it's a great spot for them here against a volatile arm. And Bradley, I think you nailed it. It's basically what I read in the playbook. Just the price tags across the board for Baltimore in a high upside spot are great. I'll add Cowser to that list that you gave. I think that he is going to have a big second half. The injuries behind him here. I think by the end of the season, Cowser and O'Hearn are going to be flipped in the order. We're going to see clean up Cowser, and I think it's going to be because he has a big second half. So really like the top 7 for the O's. I can kind of give or take Kobe Mayo. I think he's a little bit of a pinch hit risk based on how the game's going. And then Stallings don't really have much interest in at all. I think you can just stick to the top 7 here. And then, I'm going to have some Tampa Bay bats. They are priced up because of how good they were to end the first half. But, I mean, we just talked about our top arm on the slate only being 9K stats. So I think that we can play some more expensive stacks and not really worry about having to dumpster dive as much as I think we usually are on Fridays where we have guys, who are 11 or 12K. So I think both sides are good here. The team totals on both sides stats have been kind of creeping up all day. Love to see that, especially on a slate where we're kind of picking between teams that have kind of the same team total. So I'm with you. I'm in on both sides here. I think we see some fireworks, some Friday night fireworks, as the show is called, down in your area in Tampa tonight. Let's go to Texas, Detroit, and the Rangers. Reese Olson has had a couple starts back from the injury. Hasn't looked great so far. An arm that I like long-term stats, but I kind of want to see it from him before I dive back in on Reese Olson. Hasn't really shown any strikeout upside since coming back. And then they're going up against Patrick Corbin. Any interest in either arm here? I am out on both guys personally.
Yeah, I'm going to be out on both of these pitchers as well. I think, Olson's, his K per inning is not terrible, but we're not looking, not totally expecting him to go too deep. 15.5 is the out total, 4.5 on the strikeouts with slight juice to the over. So it's not a terrible K per inning, which I do look at, but I also look at how many innings we're expecting. And that and that's one of the lower ones for Olson on the entire slate. Also, a guy with some control issues, so not a guy that I'm going to be targeting. And then Corbin's just it's very rare that we're going to be using Patrick Corbin on any of these slates, especially at 7,300 with the prices of all these pitchers out there today. They're fairly cheap, so I'm going to be passing on both of the pitchers. I think the Detroit side of this game looks a little bit more intriguing to me from a bat standpoint. Again, I like these more as secondary stacks. I think Jones at the 3,200 with power and speed is really probably the best value in this game. Torkelson 4,200, not bad at all. A lot of power upside for him, but yeah, it's going to be secondary stacks. If you're going to play Texas, I think you kind of stick to Garcia, Seager, and maybe Semien. That's about it. Langford too. I would throw Langford in there, but and then the Detroit side, like the outside of those top two guys that I mentioned, probably Perez and Gleyber Torres with Dingler. I would use those guys as well in my lineups, but not going to get too heavy. These are both sides, more Detroit, just using them as secondaries today.
It's going to be our second disagreement of the show. I really like the Tigers here. They're not my top team here, but this is one of the teams between that 4-5 and 4-9 that I'm going to kind of flag plant here. Just a team that's consistently delivered time and time again up against a volatile pitcher. Like they have the same team total as St. Louis, teams like that. I think the Tigers have much more upside than a team like St. Louis. Torkelson, some of the best numbers in all of baseball against left-handed pitching, 4,200 in the cleanup spot. I think he's one of the better plays on the entire slate. I do agree that secondaries are probably better, but I'm going to allow five-mans here. Since everyone's gotten healthy stats and they sent down like Ibanez and guys like that, they've been a little bit less pinch hit risk. Jones has got the biggest pinch hit risk, but he's also 3K in the 2-hole and he's not going to be owned. So this isn't like a spot where we've got a 30% guy that we're worried about getting pulled. So I'm going to be fairly heavy on the Tigers bats. They're in my top 5 for stacks here. Just an offense that I think the market continually is low on, a team that's proven to us all season that they're going to score runs. So I like the Tigers here. I like the Tigers team total over. Mostly the top 6 here. I don't mind going left on left against Corbin. He's shown that he can give it up to lefties, and the pen behind him is really bad. So I'm a bit heavier on the Tigers here than you are. And like I said, Olson, a guy that I'm going to like down the line. I just want to see it after the injury. He just has not looked the same. I think they kind of rushed him back, coming back from that injury. So at 7,600 is not something that I'm going to buy into on this slate. Let's go to Coors. The Twins are at Coors for the weekend. Chris Paddock, who's gotten beaten around all season against Kyle Freeland, who's been decent on the road, but has really gotten shelled at home. Stats, we have another series at Coors where the road team's priced down. Entire Twins lineup, super cheap outside of Buxton. How are you handling this game overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to get off Minnesota. Like you said, the prices are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You've got, Buxton at the 6,500. Then you got, Korea's 4,200. Jeffers 47. Bader 3,900. Like these guys, this doesn't look like a Coors game just by the prices. So who knows? It's going to wind up, I'm sure, burning me because I'm going to just go real heavy here, shoving all in here on twin stacks. But they just, for the price in Colorado compared to what we've got with the other team totals out there on this slate, I mean, I just don't see any reason not to get heavy on the Minnesota bats. I think, and pretty much all their bats are going to be in play. We're going to obviously 5-man stacks, secondary stacks, everything's in play. But I think the Colorado side makes some sense as well. Like Moniak, Tovar, Toglia, McMahon, all those guys I like at pretty cheap prices. All of those guys are under 4K. Tovar is only 3,200. I think you could stack the entire game using Minnesota as the main as your main stack and the secondary stacks with Colorado. But I like Colorado stacks a bit here as well because we're not playing either one of these pitchers. No chance.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like both sides. I think Colorado might go a little under the radar on the slate. I'm like, man, there's just not that many good spots. And, I'll take the chances against Paddock, who, like we said, stats, has just not had it all season. I know I've mentioned it a bunch. 2-pitch pitchers in 2025, really tough to be a successful starter, especially getting through the lineup that third time. I think lefties are the better plays, even though the better hitters on Colorado are right-handers. I do prefer the lefties if you had to have some tiebreakers there. But basically like the entire order except for Nola and Ritter here. Toglia, as we know, has popped from the left side. McMahon, Moniak. I kind of like that. What is that? 2-4-6 today as a secondary. So are you going to have 5-mans of Colorado here, or is it picking and choosing?
Yeah, I think you could play the 5-mans also. Yeah, and the two guys that you mentioned are the two guys that I don't particularly care for, either Ritter and Nola. Yeah. But the rest of the lineup I think is good to go for 5-man stacks. So I'm going to be using both of these in 5-man stacks, and I'll probably have quite a bit of 5-man Colorados with 2 and 3-man Minnesotas and vice versa.
Yeah, and then the only thing I'll say on the twin side, I think if you're looking for potential guys to, be under, I think Bader is a pinch hit risk here. They've got both Wallner and Larnach off the bench here stats, and I can see after Freeling comes out, Bader being pulled for one of those. And I think Vasquez will come out at some point if this game is at least remotely close for one of those big left-handed bats. So those are my lowest two. They're so cheap that it doesn't really matter. And I think I'd rather play the guys that I know are going to play all 9 here. So I'm right there with you. I think it's a tough spot to get away from in general, just because their team total is 1.6 runs higher than any other team. Honestly, I thought the projected ownership would even be higher than it is, even as high as it is, right?
I thought so too, and I was curious to hear your opinion on that. I'm like, so I've got a couple of different trains of thought. I'm like, if everyone's looking at these team totals, then I'm thinking like Minnesota's going to get hammered even more. I just don't know if enough people actually look at it like that. So I'm of the belief here that they're actually going to be lower owned than they should be, Minnesota. So I think it's closer to what maybe what Sabres got the projected ownerships of being. I think is probably about where it's going to be, which is somewhere. I mean, the Bucks, they've got them at like 30%, but the rest of these guys in between, let's say 15 to 20% for I guess low 20s for most of these guys. I think that's about where they'll be. I would think most of them would be in the low 20s. I think it's too low on this particular slate. Oh, you zoomed in way too much on us there.
There we go. I was trying to zoom, or I was trying to scroll up because I'm still waiting on one DM full time. If you're still in the chat, DM me on Discord. I know that you have my DM full time. You're the last one that needs a ticket. Yeah, I fucked up the Zoom, but hey, I've done it before, so I knew how to fix it. Stats. So we're back. I agreed with everything you said. I think for single entry, I think it's interesting how you deal with the Twins. Like if you're playing the 121, which we've got 8 guys here doing that. I think that it's interesting to play them as a secondary stack and pick one of these other teams that we've liked, like Baltimore or something like that. I think that's an interesting way to do it. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to play it yet. I think you can just
see. I don't know if I would do that in the 1-2-1. I think I'm either playing a 5-man stack or I'm just going to totally fade. I think that's how I would do it in the 121.
I'll probably cave and do it that way in the 121. I'm in Montana, so I'm not able to register the rest of the weekend. So I've got to have a winner tonight. Stats. I can't play tomorrow. Can't play Sunday in this fucking state that apparently doesn't have sports betting either. You have to go to an actual place that has little kiosks. It's all owned by Montana Bet or something like that. So this will probably be the last time I come to this state. Let's keep it moving. We got 3 games left. We got about 15 minutes. Perfect timing here. Going to the West Coast, Arizona, Brandon Pfaadt and Andre Payante. Curious where you ended up on Pfaadt. I'm trying, my pitcher pool is pretty small right now. I'm trying to see if there are guys to add, and you haven't really talked up anyone that I don't have.
Yeah, I'm not helping you at all. Yeah, I don't. I mean, excuse me, another game where I don't really particularly love either one of them. So Pfaadt, just not enough strikeouts, 7,700 on the price tag. Is projected to go a little deeper than some of these other pitchers on this slate. If I bring up bringing up the prop markets on him, but they've got 17.5, so that's up there with the higher price pitchers. But it's just the strikeout total that I'm not particularly excited about. 4.5 Ks in the betting market, and with Pallante just 3.5, no interest.
It's also who he's around, right? We're going to talk about Brandon Walter, we're going to talk about Glasnow here. It's just really tough for me to click Pfaadt over either of those guys.
That's pretty much what it is. Yeah, we didn't really get to the 2 of the pitchers that are going to be I guess that we're both going to like a little bit more, and I guess the entire market will as well. So yeah, this one I'm not particularly fond of either one of these pitchers. So Pfaadt maybe a little. I'm probably not going to have any, but of the 2, maybe you'll have 1 or 2 lineups with Pfaadt in it, but no real interest from me on either of those guys. But I don't know what you think about the bats. I mean, I always like this ballpark, but the bat. I think the St. Louis bats are preferable here over Arizona, but not by much. I think both of these, again, I'm looking at these more on the secondary with the secondary stacks. With the St. Louis side, with Burleson and Contreras rate out fairly high. Carroll rates out high on the Arizona side. But then down in that next tier, you're going to get a bunch of the Arizona bats in Suarez, Naylor, and Gurriel with Gorman and Arenado on the St. Louis side, and Wynn just missing there. So I think all those bats are in play for secondary stacks. The Arizona side, I mean, it's kind of expensive, so that's why I kind of prefer the St. Louis bats here for cheaper prices. But as you mentioned, maybe we don't even need
not that worried about expensive today.
Yeah, I know we don't really need to worry about it all that much either. So it's which side you like best. But yeah, they're fairly even for me if I look at it kind of straight up. But I'll probably have a little bit more St. Louis here. Not one of my favorite games though.
Yeah, so here's how I'm playing it. I'm not playing the arms. I think that one-offs and minis are better against Pfaadt because he's going to give up power. The only way, and it's happened a bunch to Payante. So he has Payante has a 60% ground ball rate, so it's going to be rallies. I do prefer the full stacks if you're going the Arizona side. And he's kind of shown that he's susceptible to that. The Diamondbacks roof for this weekend, they are the best at this. They always post ahead of time if the roof's going to be open. It is closed all weekend. I just checked while I was stalling there a bit. They called up my boy Adrian Del Castillo. Finally, he's a good hitter. I know stats when we were out in Napa last year. That was our horse. He's back. He's 2K. So yeah, I mean the back half of the Arizona lineups is pretty weak, but you get a 2K catcher in there, which really, really helps. And you don't have to play that absolute bum Jose Herrera who bunts every time someone's on base in front of him. So yeah, I think it's Arizona full stacks, St. Louis, you're picking the power and you're picking the mini, basically the top 5 on St. Louis. I don't really think you have to go past that overall. But yeah, I mean, on a slate where we don't really have huge team totals, the Snakes have broken slates like this a lot this season. So our guy Uncle T, I might be going more on his side and getting more snakes since we don't have the Braves to play tonight.
I mean, it's not the worst. In that ballpark, I never mind playing playing bats. So it's
no Ketel Marte, but that does make the stack easier because you don't have two 6K guys overall. We were kind of behind, but we have two games where we like the pitching coming up. Let's go to Seattle. I really like both pitchers in this game. Wrote about it on the playbook if you remember. You can get my thoughts there. But let's get stats thoughts on Luis Castillo against Brandon Walter, who has been extremely good all season, and the underlying numbers seem to back it up that it's a real thing here.
Yeah, I mean, Walter, they've got him at 4.5 Ks in the prop market, 16.5 outs. Let's see where he came in for me at the 8th pitcher on the slate here tonight. So, it's just the strikeouts of 4.5 strikeouts with that projected innings. We're looking at maybe about 5.5 innings is not exactly what I'm looking for. I'm usually looking for something over 1. We don't have a ton of those type of pitchers here tonight. Also, a guy who just pretty good control with Walter, so he's not going to walk a ton of batters. That is
not pretty good control. He has a 0.7 walk rate since June 1st.
Exactly, very good control. So he's definitely in play. Not going to be one of my higher owned pitchers, but in that ballpark, I think you have to give him a little bump as well.
Yep.
But Castillo's my number 2 option here on the slate. I've got him just over a K per inning. Another guy who's pretty good with the control. Earn runs, of course, in this game we're projecting pretty low team totals. So his earn run projection is fairly low. We're looking at 18.5 outs in the betting market. That is juice to the under, with 6.5 outs juice to the under as well. 6.5 strikeouts, I should say, juice to the under. So I think both pitchers are in play. Certainly Castillo, one of my favorites on the entire slate. Let's see where they've got him as far as ownership goes. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be right there with Strider, which makes sense if we buy into what Sabres got here for projection. So that does make sense. The leverage, when you look at the boom report later on, you'll of course see leverage versus the starting pitcher on the Houston side because of the ownership on Castillo. I don't think this is one of those games where you necessarily want to take that kind of leverage. I like to take it in situations where we've got some better upside with the home runs. And for that, if you look at the boom sheet, just kind of look at someone asked the question earlier, like, do you take the leverage versus starting pitchers? Do you take tournament edge? I mean, that's really going to be your choice. But what I would suggest is when I'm looking at them, if I want to play tournament edge plays, and this is what Freddie won the 60,000 last week with, is just playing the tournament edge plays. I would look at the ones that are actually high in the boom report. So they're not just big edge, but they're also high on the boom report. So we're looking at guys with big upside and have a tournament edge. That's what you're looking for. So you get a little bit of that with Seattle here, but again, I don't particularly like taking the Seattle bats or any bats in Seattle. So I think I'm going to pass on this one. I think it's just going to be all pitching here for me with a heavy dose of Castillo.
Same exact thoughts here. Yeah. Castillo, as we know, better home. He's been much, much better home. This is one of the home road splits that we do buy into because of the park, right?
Right.
He's also been much, much better against right-handed bats. And as we know, with Houston, we don't have the lineup yet, but I'm expecting at least 7 righties in there. Castillo still fairly dominant stats against right-handed bats. So basically the best matchup you could draw up outside of facing, like a Colorado or, Chicago, something like that. So even at the 83, 85 tag for Castillo, I'm in there. And then I'm buying into the numbers with Walter. I'm with you here. The underlying stuff plus the park, I'm in on Walter on this slate. Lowest XFIT on this slate since June 1st for Walter. That, on a slate with some good pitchers, that kind of surprised me. So yeah, it's both arms here and no bats overall. Let's go to the last game. The Dodgers kind of whimpered into the break, at least offensively, kind of hoping that the break helped them. Let's talk about the pitching side first. Glass now got 1 start under his belt. Had been out since April. Threw 85 pitches, though. Super encouraging stats at 8K. I think I put in the playbook I would bet that this is the lowest price we see the rest of the season on Glass now, as long as he stays healthy. So thoughts on him, and then Priester's been fairly good, but going into LA, really, really tough spot for him.
Yeah, no doubt. Glass now I've got as my third pitcher here on the slate, so definitely have a ton of interest in him. Better K per inning than we've got with Castillo. We're just not really expecting him to go as deep maybe as Castillo is in that game. You got 16.5 is the out prop for Glass now, and that's juiced under with a 5.5 juice to the over K total. So or K prop. So yeah, definitely interest here on a relatively weak slate in taking Glass now. What I'm gonna try to see what the ownership. So they've got him at what here on Saber? I would just imagine like 20. Yeah, okay, so 26%. So it's really the three guys. The three guys have a top.
It's too low. It's too low.
I think it's too low. I do agree with you. It's too. I think all the top pitchers are probably too. I think they're all going to come in higher than what Sabres got him at, more than likely here. Just because I don't love a lot of these options. I don't think most of the market's going to love a ton of these options, and the prices just aren't restrictive. So I think you're going to see Strider, Castillo, and Glasnow all go higher than that. They may all be in the 30+% range. I'm not sure. I think Glass. I think
Glasnow is 26 because I'm going to have like 50% of him.
Yeah, I think
we're in the same boat where we're more condensed on pitcher than we usually are here.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go here tonight. I think if you're going to be narrow on one side or the other, I think the pitching is the way to be narrow here. So I would take less pitching and then maybe spread out my hitting. Although obviously I'm going to have a high focus on Minnesota, so I'm going to be quite heavy on Minnesota, and I'm going to have a fairly tight pitching pool, which means I really want to open up the rest of it. So I want these secondary stacks. I want to get pieces of all these other these other stacks to go with it. But this is about as like tight and narrow as I really have it on an 11-game slate. It's unusual. So expect the white.
I've got 6 pitchers in my pool, and one of them is Bassett, who I might cut. So, it's pretty tight. One thing I did want to talk about in this game is the Dodger bats, right? So they were pretty bad coming into the break, but they do get the break. I think that they kind of needed it stats. Like it just seemed like they were kind of coasting going in. They have the big lead. I think the reset is going to help a team like the Dodgers, who just probably just needed to kind of refocus. They're healthier than they have been. I think they're really only down Muncy and Kike, who doesn't really matter. What I'm interested in stats is these price tags. Look at the price tags on everyone that's not Shohei Ohtani in this Dodgers lineup. We've got Will Smith at 4.8, Mookie 4.4, Freddie Freeman 4.3, Teoscar, the Grouch at 4,200, Paez 4K, Edmund 3,600. This is the cheapest Dodgers lineup on DK. Just like Glasnow, that I think we're going to see the entire season. And on a slate where, we're kind of, splitting hairs between these teams, I kind of want to lean into these cheap bats at home coming out of the break. I think the Dodgers are a great stack here. I think that, if anyone's going to beat the Twins, I think it's a pretty short list, and I think the Dodgers might be at the top of that list for me.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think the Dodger stacks and with the prices, I think are well worth playing tonight. So, and you named all the guys that I really had up there fairly high. Smith, Freeman, Pages, Betts, Teoscar, obviously Shohei. But the rest of outside of Shohei, I think the prices are pretty good for these guys. If you are looking at the other side, I just think and you've got the punt play is going to be your first base. I think Vaughn at 2,700 is interesting as a one-off piece, obviously in a non-Glasnow lineup. But outside of that, don't have too much interest on the Milwaukee bats. But yeah, those Dodger bats are in play, and I could see them being I think all kind of straight up being the second best option here on the slate.
Yeah, it's just I'm going to buy into the price dip coming out of the break against a pitcher who, he's been pretty good, but it's not a guy that I think we expect to continue to be this good. So I really like the Dodgers. I think that they are under projected here outside of Shohei. And I'm just going to buy the dip to use that term. All right, let's go through the stuff at the end of the show. We did do a dong draft last Friday. We drafted 6 guys that were all 1.5x. I got the Andrew Vaughn home run, which was a bit bittersweet because it cost me about $2,000 on the slate because he was like 40% owned or whatever. That was a slate where he was against the lefty and he was like 2,300 or whatever. But before we do the dong draft, let's do pitchers and stacks. We both said that we have a pretty tight core of pitchers here. Who's going to be most important for you tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I like to get a little tricky here sometimes, but I just think you got to go with the top choices. So to be Strider and Castillo for me.
Yeah, I think it's. Did I just pause myself?
No, you're good.
All right. Well, my video's
paused. Your video's paused. Yeah, but you're.
I'm going to go Strider and Glasnow. I just think if we come back in a month, right? I think Glasnow has a real good chance to be like a 10K arm in a month, where I don't think Castillo, even if he pitches well, is going to get much higher than 8,500. So it's kind of a tiebreaker for me. I just think the upside for Glasnow is so high, and it's just, this is not the type of arm that we see at 8K too often. So it's going to be Strider Glasnow for me. I'm going to have a bunch of Castillo and a bunch of Brandon Walter as well. I think it's pretty clear top 4, and then just going to be super heavy on those guys and kind of ignore most of the rest. All right, let's do your favorite stack. Let's go. Let's leave the Twins off of this. Your favorite non-Twins stack tonight.
I'm going to go with that Baltimore stack again. I think it offers really good leverage with some pretty good upside. So I like that Baltimore stack in GPPs tonight quite a bit.
I like the O's too. I think they're in a great spot. The price tags are right for them to have a big night. I'm going to go with the Dodgers though. I just mentioned it. I can't get away from how cheap these bats are. I mean, the top 5 of this order stats for most of the season were 5,500 each, and now we're getting them in the low to mid 4Ks. I'll be buying the dip. I'll be playing the Dodgers tonight. All right, let's do a quick dong draft before we get out of here. I'll let you go first. Who do you got for the dong draft?
Give me Toglia.
Toglia? Does he get the one?
Yeah, he fits.
3,500. There you go. I'm going to draft someone just for our guy, Terry, Uncle T. Just got called up today. Stats, he was a hero for us. The live final, Adrian Del Castillo, the 2K freebie dong. Adrian Del Castillo. I don't know what took them so long to call him up. Jose Herrera was not doing anything for them. I'm sure he's like horrendous defensively, which is why they haven't. All right, I'm going back to back here. I'm going to go with the rookie for the Royals, also at 1.5x, Jack Caglianone under 3,500.
All right, I am going to take. Give me Nick Kurtz. Yeah, and then I'm going to take. I'll take Torkelson.
You just took my last guy, so I have to look again. I was 100% taking Torkelson there. If you didn't, I think that might be the best price on the entire slate. I've got to go with the Dodge here. I'll go with my guy, the Grouch, who had some trouble with injuries. Price is all the way out at 40. I can't ignore Teoscar Hernandez at 4,200. We need to get the Grouch back on track. It starts with the dong draft that's going to get him back in gear. So our last 2 are not 1.5x. So we got Toglia, Nick Kurtz, and Torkelson against Adrian Del Castillo, Jack Caglianone, and Teoscar the Grouch Hernandez. All right. We went through the whole slate stats, all 11 games. Awesome to have baseball back. It was good to have the break, but also great to have the games back. Congrats to the winners. Thanks again to Chris McDonald for the giveaway. 8 121 tickets is insane. And I think he gave away more in the Discord before. So I think it was 10 or 12 overall that he gave away. Just awesome stuff. Just shows how great the community is that we have in Discord. But yeah, everyone have a good weekend. Enjoy the rest of the Open. Scotty looked great today. We'll see if we can keep it going throughout the weekend. For Stats, I'm Steve. We'll see you next week.